So my first question for you is, this is the second time that you're submitting to the Artifact competition. What's something that you've learned from submitting this time? And like, how does it differ from the first time?
So, well, Jacob Valentine, he was he grew up in a lot of different conditions that Rosalie Naff did when I researched her the first time. So he actually grew up homeless, and because of that, he was able to really get to know the wildlife a lot better. And even growing up homeless, he was able to get an education and really delve into his passion. And with this passion, he was able to fuel that into saving the sandhill cranes. So, what I learned is that no matter what conditions you come from, what your circumstances are, it's always possible for you to what's it? I can't
Yeah, don't
go
worry.
after your dreams and make a difference.
Hmm. Yeah, totally. What skills did you take from your classroom to make the artwork that you did this time?
So I grew up doing a lot of acrylic painting, and this time I kind of used it in a way that I incorporated a lot more color into it than I normally would, especially with a portrait. So I've done a lot of color theory, and normally with portraits, it's a lot more toned down. But with this, I used it like more of like an artistic and to make it so that it had more of a meaning. So I tried to like really incorporate bolder oranges and purples into a skin tone
Yeah,
when I would only use different colors.
definitely got that and saw it in the difference between the two. Also, it was really cool. Um, I mean, you were talking about like how Jacob was homeless and like his conditions, like the way he grew up and stuff, but what really stood out to you about this unsung hero?
So what I've actually noticed about a lot of unsung heroes, and particularly with him, is that no matter like how many people are against you, like Jacob Valentine, he did not care about that. He fought for those cranes with his life. He gave them a voice they did not have, and I thought that was so inspirational that he could, without any support, he could rise up and fight for someone or some like these animals that could not fight for themselves.
Yeah, true. Like that whole environment like would be completely different if he didn't do the things he did.
Yeah, exactly.
So something that you mentioned in your statement was that you watched the piece transform before your eyes. Is this something that usually happens when you make art, or was this something totally new and different?
This was really different for me because usually when I start with a project, I have like this really like sort of concrete plan. But with this piece, like my plan did not go like how I wanted it to,
Interesting.
because at first when I painted Jacob Valentine, he really didn't have a lot of color, and the background was pretty dull. And then all of a sudden I kind of had this idea like to bring soul into him because he was the one with the soul bringing it to the savannah. So when I was adding all these colors, it was so awesome. It was like 2 hours of just awesomeness, like just
Wow, that's
adding
great.
these colors. Yeah, and it was so cool. Like I took two pictures like before and after, and it was just a complete transformation. And that was something I really love seeing with this piece that I really didn't see in my other pieces before.
Hmm. That's cool. Would you actually mind sending me those pictures? I'd love to see
Yeah,
the difference
sure, I
between
can.
them. Cool.
Yeah.
And then I just have one more question. Another thing that you or you talked about in your statement was that you want to contribute and raise more awareness for the environment. How would you say if you have done anything so far, how would you say you've done it, and what do you want to do in the future?
So I think a really important part of art is sharing a message. So with a lot of my artwork, I try to convey sort of like feelings of sadness or um, alarm sort of with, especially with environmental issues, so that people are more compelled to take action. So in the past, one of my first pieces concerning environmental activism was this piece called Melancholy. I don't actually know how to pronounce it, but it's like an elephant painting, and it has a lot of blues and purples, which is like sort of associated with sadness and tranquility at times too. And I put a lot of drips and really a lot of ink blotches and things, and it had sort of like a really sad tone to it. And I use that to raise awareness for how a lot of elephants are being exploited for their tusks and ivory. And this piece was actually used by the Elephant Pants brand, and they donate
Oh, cool.
um, yeah, they donate most of their profits to saving the elephants. So that was like a huge like launch for me in my like environmental activism kind of projects. And then so from then on, I moved on to saving the polar bears. Kind of there was the there was this piece I painted called Pensive, and it showed kind of like this polar bear like looking off into the distance, and he's sort of like melting away, but he's kind of like in has this like thoughtful gaze, and it kind of makes you think like how if these polar bears disappear, like you can't bring them back, you can't paint them back. Like
Yeah. Oh, that's such
so
a good message.
yeah, so I really enjoyed that piece, and just doing these kinds of pieces, it brings like a lot of joy for me because I'm sharing a message and it's leading to action, so it's
Hmm.
awesome.
Yeah, especially for your generation too, who's inheriting this earth with everything with climate change and everything. Like that,
Yeah.
having a message about the environment is really awesome. Yeah, I think those were all my questions. So thanks for taking the time today to
Yeah,
answer.
of course. Thank you for inviting me to this.